We're halfway through 2021, and after a relatively slow but not completely uneventful first 6 months, it looks like the year is going to pick up the pace in its second half. There's quite a few major games coming out across pretty much every platform for players to look forward to, and here we're going to take a look at the 30 biggest ones. Before we begin, please consider subscribing and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon. With that out of the way, let's get started. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Pokemon fans have been waiting for Gen 4 remakes for a long time now, so the launch of Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl is definitely cause for celebration. And sure, there's some healthy skepticism here as well, which is understandable given Pokemon's track record in recent years, and the fact that the remakes haven't made the best first impression, visually speaking. But if the developers at ILCA can deliver remakes that properly capture the magic of Sinnoh, these might just be the best Pokemon games in years. DEATHLOOP. When a developer with the pedigree of Arcane Studios makes something, you sit up and take notice. Microsoft-owned Arcane's PS5 exclusive DEATHLOOP defies logic with its existence, but there's several reasons to look forward to this game. Combining Arcane's mastery over crafting immersive sims in complex and layered worlds with what's looking like a fascinating setting and an even more interesting premise, DEATHLOOP seems to have all of the elements in place to deliver yet another Arcane masterpiece. The Dark Pictures anthology, House of Ashes. Supermassive has been building on the success it found with Until Dawn with similar narrative-driven horror adventure titles in the Dark Pictures series, and its third installment, House of Ashes, is out later this year. Enjoyable multiplayer, compelling choice and consequence mechanics, what's looking like a very promising narrative premise, and what will hopefully be very effective horror could come together in a game with the potential to deliver the kind of quality we all know this developer is capable of. Back 4 Blood. Left 4 Dead fans have been starved for some good co-op zombie-slaying action, but soon we'll all be feasting. The people behind Left 4 Dead are coming back with something fresh, yet familiar in Back 4 Blood, and it's looking like a very exciting prospect. Boasting frantic action, PvE and PvP options aplenty, imaginative and varied enemy design, and much more, Back 4 Blood might just be able to fill the gaping void that Left 4 Dead fans have been feeling for over a decade. Horizon Forbidden West. As the sequel to one of the PS4's best exclusives, Horizon Forbidden West has a great deal to live up to, but based on what we've seen of it so far, the game seems to be up for the challenge. Improvements such as free climbing, better melee combat, underwater sections, and more varied traversal with the Shield Wing and the Ropecaster look quite promising. And that, combined with the core strengths of Zero Dawn, could make for another excellent open-world action RPG by Guerrilla Games. Here's hoping it manages to hit its intended launch window and does not slip into next year. Halo Infinite. There's a lot riding on Halo Infinite. The Halo franchise as a whole has been on a downward spiral ever since Bungie left, and though Infinite is promising to be a much-needed series reinvention, it didn't have the best first showing last year. Thankfully, even though there are still more than a few question marks where its campaign is concerned, on the multiplayer side of things, Halo Infinite seems to be making all of the right decisions. We're just hoping to see more of the campaign before the game launches later this year, and that it actually looks as good as it needs to. Kena Bridge of Spirits. Kena Bridge of Spirits grabbed attention with its very first showing last year, and it hasn't let up since. Every time we see more of Ember Labs' action-adventure game in action, it shows exciting potential. From its gorgeous visuals to its classic Zelda-inspired design philosophies, with a dash of God of War and Pikmin thrown in for good measure, Kena is shaping up to be quite an interesting game. Shin Megami Tensei 5. It has been a long time coming, but Shin Megami Tensei 5 will finally be here towards the end of the year, over 4 years after its initial announcement in early 2017. Atlus's cult classic franchise, which went on to spawn the now global hit Persona series, has always been beloved by RPG diehards for so many reasons. From the unique atmosphere and setting of the games, to the sheer player agency and expression they enable with their breadth and depth of mechanics, to their philosophical and thematic density. And now we get to see the first new entry in the series in 8 years, as well as the first console entry in the series in 18 years. It looks like the wait will be worth it. Shin Megami Tensei 5 looks to be surprisingly high budget, and appropriately fitting transition to the HD console era for the franchise. We never expect SMT to be as big as Persona due to its far darker and harsher vibes, but we do expect it to have the best shot at a breakout success yet with SMT5, especially if it ends up following through on how exciting it looks. Tales of Arise. RPG fans have been in love with the Tales series for a long time, but with Tales of Arise, it's looking like the franchise is getting ready to hit the big time. Bandai Namco are aiming to deliver their biggest and most ambitious Tales game to date with Arise, and based on everything that we've seen of it so far, it's definitely heading in the right direction. The characters and story, the combat and the world, the visuals, and so much more are showing a lot of promise, and we're hoping the game will be able to live up to all of the hype that it's generating. Grand Theft Auto V. What's old is new again, and again, and again. When Grand Theft Auto V releases later this year for the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S, it will have spanned nearly a decade and 3 console generations. Considering the bonkers critical and commercial success the game has enjoyed and keeps on enjoying, that shouldn't be surprising, but it really is. Rockstar promises some significant upgrades in the game's next-gen ports as well, and considering how well they did with the game's PS4, Xbox One, and PC ports what seems like forever ago, we have no reasons to doubt them. We're just hoping GTA 6 is secretly cooking in the background as well, because as much as we love GTA 5, it's probably time for something new. Forza Horizon 5. If there's one thing the last decade has taught us, it's that a new Forza Horizon game is pretty much guaranteed to be great. The series and Playground Games both have impeccable track records, and with the upcoming Forza Horizon 5, it seems like they're both going to entirely new heights. The open world of Mexico looks vast, beautiful, and varied. And if Playground Games can consistently deliver the sort of quality that we know that they're capable of, this might just be their best game to date, which is really saying something. Monster Hunter Stories 2: Wings of Ruin. A different flavor of Monster Hunter, but one that looks very promising. Building on the foundation of the first Monster Hunter Stories, Stories 2 is promising a turn-based role-playing adventure that blends the core strengths of Monster Hunter with the charms of Pokemon. Everything that we've seen of it so far, and we've seen quite a bit, gives the impression that Capcom are on the verge of delivering yet another excellent Monster Hunter game. The Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword HD. Skyward Sword might not be everyone's favorite Zelda game, though there's certainly a legion of Zelda fans who swear by it, but amidst all of the backlash the game has received in the decade since its launch, people often forget that there is a lot to love here, even despite all of its issues. And now that the game is coming to the Switch, hopefully those qualities will be able to shine through all the problems. Nintendo has the chance to tone down some of the game's worst tendencies and polish up its strengths to allow it to fulfill its inherent potential. And if Skyward Sword HD can do that, it'll be yet another win for this fabled franchise. Psychonauts 2. Oh boy, how long have we been looking forward to this one? Psychonauts is an absolute classic, the kind that deserves way more attention than it got, and after endless years of anticipation, it's finally getting a sequel. And Psychonauts 2 is looking excellent. It's looking weird, hilarious, bizarre, and trippy in all of the right ways, seemingly striking the perfect balance between delivering more of the same and expanding upon its predecessor in crucial ways. Psychonauts 2 has a lot to live up to, but so far, it seems like it's doing so with flying colors. F1 2021. Codemasters' F1 series is a rare example of an annual sports series that consistently keeps delivering excellent games with meaningful yearly improvements. So really, there shouldn't be any doubt that F1 2021 is going to be yet another amazing racing sim. With the addition of things like the story-driven mode Breaking Point, 2-player career modes, improvements to My Team, and so much more, it looks like F1 2021 is going to be yet another excellent game in Codemasters' admirably consistent series. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Marvel's Avengers was a major disappointment, so any new Marvel game coming from Square Enix is going to be met with plenty of skepticism. But honestly, we're optimistic about Guardians of the Galaxy. For starters, it's a single-player narrative-driven action-adventure game, with no microtransactions or DLC to muddy the waters. More importantly, its choice-based gameplay and team-driven combat is looking solid so far, while the characters, their designs, and the humorous writing also seems to be nailing the Guardians aesthetic. Hopefully the game will make good on its potential. The Ascent. The Ascent has been generating a lot of buzz since it was first revealed last year, and it's easy to see why. Its dystopian, cyberpunk world is looking like a rich and dense setting, with the game promising a seamless open world that encourages exploration. Meanwhile, the Ascent is promising high-octane combat built on layers upon layers of role-playing mechanics, and that's something that, if implemented well, can elevate any game. Add to that some seriously impressive graphics, and you have a game that might just surprise people with what it accomplishes. No More Heroes 3. Not that long ago, No More Heroes wasn't a series that many of us expected to see much of again. But Travis Touchdown, his beam katana, and his over-the-top antics are coming back this year in a long-awaited, full-fledged sequel. Promising a gleefully ridiculous story, gruesome and violent action, and more of the irreverent humor that the series is known for, No More Heroes 3 is shaping up to be a worthy sequel to its cult classic predecessors. Riders Republic. Ubisoft really loves its extreme sports titles, doesn't it? And with Riders Republic, it's taking that to extreme heights. A large, connected social open world that gives players the freedom to participate in any number of activities, from skydiving to mountain biking, is an inherently interesting concept. And what we've seen of Riders Republic so far is certainly encouraging. The game is making bold promises about the sheer variety of activities and the scale on which they will be available, so here's hoping it does justice to that. Final Fantasy XIV ENDWALKER. What started out as an absolute disaster has over the years turned into an absolute masterpiece. Final Fantasy XIV has gone from strength to strength with each of its expansions, so it's hard not to be excited about where it will go with ENDWALKER. Whether you're in for the rich lore and the world building, or the excellent storytelling, or the plethora of ridiculously addictive and mechanically deep content, the MMORPG's next expansion is shaping up to be yet another win for this remarkable game. Battlefield 2042. Battlefield 2042 looks like the culmination of years of growth for DICE's series. Taking players back to a modern or near-future setting, it's promising massive battles on an unprecedented scale, and with vastly improved destruction mechanics, an unsurprising focus on vehicular action, large-scale dynamic weather effects, and much more, it's also looking like it's going to significantly drive up the bombastic chaos that the series was always known for. The lack of a single-player campaign is definitely disappointing, but it's hard not to be excited about what the game is promising with its multiplayer offerings. Rainbow Six Extraction. Formerly known as Rainbow Six Quarantine, Rainbow Six Extraction is looking like an interesting prospect. It's taking the mechanics and operators of Rainbow Six Siege and using them in a sci-fi PvE co-op experience, and then splicing it all up with some rather unique risk-reward progression mechanics. There's some healthy skepticism in the Rainbow Six fanbase about how the game will turn out, but hopefully, much like Siege before it, the game will be able to defy expectations and deliver something solid. Life is Strange True Colors. Don't Nod Entertainment has moved on from Life is Strange, but Deck 9, who developed the excellent Before the Storm, are now carrying the torch. And it certainly seems like they're up for the task with the upcoming Life is Strange True Colors. Sure, the power of empathy is a strange thing to build the story around, but if True Colors can tell a good story with an excellent cast and meaningful choices, Life is Strange fans will be happy. Everything that's been shown of the game so far looks encouraging, so we're keeping our fingers crossed. Lost Judgment. Yakuza made an extremely unexpected but surprisingly sensible transition to a turn-based RPG format last year. But the brawler style that defined the IP will live on in a sister series, Judgment, which gets a brand new entry this year, Lost Judgment. Lost Judgment is an exciting installment for fans for a lot of reasons, not just because it's a bigger sequel to the original that takes players to Yokohama, coincidentally the same setting that was used for Yakuza 7. But also because it's the first simultaneous global release in the franchise, and that, along with the continued inclusion of an English dub, reaffirms that this franchise is now definitely a priority for Sega. Which is great. RGG Studios' Yakuza universe is honestly among our favorite stomping grounds in games, and we cannot wait to return to it with Lost Judgment. Diablo 2 Resurrected. Age of Empires isn't the only classic PC franchise getting a new release this year. With Diablo 4 still a ways down the line, Blizzard is instead releasing a remaster of Diablo 2 in the guise of Diablo 2 Resurrected. And to avoid the kinds of mistakes that did in Warcraft 3 Reforged last year, they've enlisted Vicarious Visions to do the job, the folks who spearheaded Activision's recent Crash Bandicoot revival. Diablo 2 is one of the greatest and most celebrated games of all time, and the upcoming remake seems to be appropriately respectful of that fact, seemingly preserving everything fans loved about it while adding the expected modernization touches as well. We love Diablo 3, especially once the expansions and updates made it a damn good game in its own right. But honestly, we're thirsting to get back to the true lord of the genre, and thankfully, Resurrected will let us do just that. Far Cry 6. Far Cry 6 is, by all accounts, shaping up to be the biggest and most ambitious game in the series to date, and based on everything that we've seen of it so far, we cannot help but be excited about its potential. The open world of Yara looks vast and varied. The fact that you're playing as a guerrilla revolutionary is promising to put a unique twist on everything from combat to stealth to customization and crafting. The storytelling seems to be making significant strides. Considering all of that, it's hard not to be excited about Far Cry 6. Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp. The gameplay that we've seen of it so far looks like classic Advance Wars, spruced up with improved visuals and production qualities. Advance Wars has been on ice for too long, and hopefully Reboot Camp will be able to bring the franchise roaring back to life. Metroid Dread. It's been a long time coming, but Metroid Dread is finally almost upon us. 2 decades in the making, the first new 2D Metroid game since Fusion, on the back of 2 failed attempts since 2002 to get the game off of the ground. Metroid Dread's history is a fascinating one, and based on what's been shown of it so far, the game will do justice to that. Classic Metroidvania exploration in a vast and layered map, the conclusion to the current series arc, relentless stalker enemies, and more are coming together in what will hopefully, and at long last, be the breakout hit that the series deserves, but has never quite had. Dying Light 2 Stay Human. After a prolonged and troubled development cycle and more than a few delays, Dying Light 2 is finally launching later this year, and if it does everything Techland is saying it will, it's going to be worth keeping an eye on. The excellent open-world parkour of the first game is coming back, but Dying Light 2 is expanding in some interesting ways, with an added emphasis on player choice that will allegedly impact the story and the game's world in major ways. On paper, it sounds excellent. Here's hoping the game lives up to its potential. Age of Empires 4. Once upon a time, Age of Empires defined an entire genre and delivered some of the greatest games ever created in the process. And this year, against all odds, and even with series creators Ensemble long dead, the franchise will be making a grand comeback after almost 2 decades long of an absence, not counting the re-releases, of course. Age of Empires 4 is not only the franchise's grand return, it's also one of the only big-budget RTS releases in literally years. As a result, anticipation around the game is high, particularly since it has gone back to fan-favorite Age of Empires 2 for its primary setting and aesthetics inspiration, while it looks to add its own unique spin on the genre its predecessors once helped create. Hopefully, it is up to the task. So, what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and share them in the comments below. And if you liked this video, please subscribe to the channel and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon to get new video updates. We upload every day and would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.